Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'd like to talk about the myth of Israel's invincibility, which has been shattered following the confrontation that Israel had with the Iranians. This recent military confrontation that Israel had with the Iranians, right? Um, Before now, it seemed like Israel was a force that cannot be stopped in the Middle East. I mean, it's decimated all of its enemies. Talk about Syria, talk about the Houthis, talk about Hamas, talk about Hezbollah. It had one success after another. So it seemed like uh, nothing could really stop the Israelis from doing whatever they wanted to do until Iran came along. And Iran gave them a bloody nose, right? And that has shattered this myth that Israel is such an advanced power. Because if you look at the confrontation between Israel, it wasn't just Israel versus Iran, it was Israel backed by the US and the West against Iran. But I'm going to be covering an article today, and ironically, the title of that article says The Myth of Iran's Invisibility Has Been Shattered. Now, I have no idea where they got such an insane idea, thought from, because I don't think anyone ever believed that Iran was invincible. If there is any such invincibility, it was usually associated with Israel, not Iran. And this is just an example of the sort of gaslighting that Western media um, does to the world. They just gaslight people with information that is wrong. They try to create a false narrative. So I'm going to share my screen and just read this uh, read this CNN piece and then react to it. So it says the myth of Iran's invisibility has been shattered and the fallout could be far reaching. This title could should appropriately be the myth of Israel's invisibility has been shattered and the fallout could be far reaching. That's the most appropriate, right? So CNN says for over 3 decades, Iran built a web of proxy networks to push its battle far beyond its borders, keeping enemies at bay as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei tightened his grip on power. Direct strikes on Iran remained inconceivable. Well, why would anyone want to directly strike Iran when Iran has not directly attacked anyone? Let's take, for example, you're talking about Iran using um, Iran is using proxies to fight its war. Isn't that what happening with Ukraine at the moment? Isn't Ukrainian war more like a proxy war for the US? Let the proxies fight. And does that give Russia the legitimacy to attack the US or to attack the West because of their support for Ukraine? It doesn't work that way. So saying that striking Iran was inconceivable because Iran has been fighting with proxies, so nobody. It's because Iran hasn't attacked anyone directly, and we can see that when Israel attacked Iran, Iran had to attack back. So going back, he said the image of invisibility crumbled in the space of hours on June 13th when Israel launched a surprise, unprecedented attack deep inside Iran, shattering Tehran's sense of security and unraveling its carefully cultivated aura of strength. Now, this is just BS. Notice the language that is being used here. The attack was described as a surprise, unprecedented attack. Surprise. This is at best a terrorist attack. This is a terrorist attack because if it had happened the other way around, it would be termed as a terrorist attack, where Israel literally had terrorist cells. They would call them Israeli operatives, terrorist cells operating deep within Iran itself, carrying out these strikes, killing civilians, killing nuclear scientists and their families, not even restricting the attack to military targets or military sites. They killed innocent civilians. They killed scientists in their homes when their families were their children were murdered by these terrorists, and they would say this is a military strike. This is about as this is comparable to what Hamas did on October 7th. It is comparable to what Hamas did on October 7th. So how can we accept one and demonize the other? I don't accept either. I think that, carrying out such attacks on a foreign country is despicable, is dishonorable. All right. Its strike took out top military leaders and some of Iran's most prominent nuclear scientists, including a few, as they slept at home with their families. See that CNN did not in any way condemn this attack on civilians. They just stating it as a matter of fact. But if it were the other way around, there would be some condemnation of what Iran had done. The human toll was significant, with 627 killed, including at least 49 women and 13 children, according to Hossein Kamapour, head of the Information Center at the Ministry of Health. The US joined Israel's campaign on Sunday, striking three nuclear sites before declaring a ceasefire between Israel and Iran the day after. Now, this was after Trump had first of all deceived the Iranians into, okay, let's have a conversation, let's have a talk, let's have negotiations, we're not going to strike you, while giving a go ahead for Israel to carry out its attack, killing a key negotiator in a key Iranian negotiator, right? It was deliberate because they wanted to sabotage the negotiating process, the peace process. And then after that, the US said, oh, we're not going to attack Iran. We're not going to attack Iran. We're giving Iran 2 weeks to decide unconditional surrender. And then the next day, they bombed Iran's nuclear site. This is as dishonorable, as dishonest as it can get. So dishonest, so dishonorable. There is no honor here. Is this how you conduct affairs? How are people ever supposed to trust your word when your word is not your bond? Many in Iran and abroad now fear the country's leadership. Its pride and defense is wounded, may tighten its grip at home while adopting a much more hawkish stance in both domestic and foreign policy. Israel would not even let its citizens leave when Iran was attacking Israel with missiles. So who is more hawkish? Who is tightening its grip? Israel would not even let civilians take photographs or videos or pictures of the damage that Iranian missiles was doing to Israel. So what are you talking about? Of course, the Iranian regime is autocratic, they are theocratic, they are oppressive. That is hardly new. But so is the Israeli regime. They are theocratic, they are autocratic, they are oppressive as well. But crickets when it comes to what Israel is doing. Israel and the US has floated regime change as a potential outcome of the attacks on Iran, which they hoped would result in a state more friendly to them. The failure to bring this about has prompted the regime to claim victory. Now, it is not up to you to decide for another people, whether you like it or not, decide for them to have a new government. You don't have to like their government. That's the legitimate government of Iran. I mean, Iranians may not like the government in the US, right? Do they have a right to call for a change, a regime change in the US or in Israel? That's not their business. That's not their right. Face your country. Face your own damn business. That's the way it is supposed to be. But the West and US, they think they have the right to impose on other countries. They think they have the right to impose on other people. They know what's best. It's so paternalistic. Oh, this government is not good for you. No, you have to change it. But the truth is, the US and Israel, they're not interested in a democratic Iran. They're not interested in a government in Iran that is for the people. They're interested in balkanizing Iran. They're interested in weakening Iran, or in turning Iran into a place like Iraq, Libya, Syria, where there are so many competing factions fighting within themselves that they don't even have the time to oppose what Israel is doing in Gaza. This all has to do with a regional hegemony for Israel. Israel wants to be the undisputed power in the Middle East. And the way it can do that is to undermine all the people who can stand up to it, considering its land grabbing and expansionist efforts that he's doing. So far from wanting to framing it as though they want the best for the Iranian people. That's not true. It is very, very self serving. Iran's leadership has shown resilience, replacing those it lost and carrying out a harsh crackdown on those it sees as being complicit in Israel's assault. Well, that's the thing. You think that by just killing people, you are going to stop whatever. People are replaceable. People they have a structure in place. So you keep assassinating these leaders, they simply just replace them. They'll simply just replace them. Not everything has to be a military action. Not everything has to be resolved by the use of force. But it seems that's the only tool that Israel and the US have in their coffers. No diplomacy, no nothing, just force, 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 force. But force can only take you so far because the more you kill people, there are 1,000 people waiting in line to take their position. So you're just going to keep assassinating them. Well, keep assassinating them. Signs also point to a regime that is much more paranoid and likely to rule with a tighter fist at home in fear of cooperation with its enemies. Of course, the regime will be much more paranoid considering the fact that there were Iranians, possibly Iranians, that assisted the Israelis in carrying out this terrorist attack in Iran. Wouldn't you be paranoid? Isn't the West paranoid now about so-called sleeper cells of terrorists in the West? So, what are you talking about? A wounded regime. After 3 years of rule by a conservative government led by Ibrahim Raisi, Iran last year elected reformist Masoud Pezeshkian, who had campaigned after dialogue with Iran's foes and presented that as a means to address the country's domestic issues. For many Iranians, it was seen as the last hope to deliver a nuclear agreement with the West and reintegrate Iran into the international community. During the 12-day conflict, Iran repeatedly struck back at Israel, causing extensive damage to major cities like Tel Aviv and killing 28 people. Its ability to retaliate under fire won praise at home, even among those CNN spoke with who are opposed to the regime. Of course, there is no government that is unpopular during wartime. I mean, part of the reason why Netanyahu is so hawkish, why he's fighting everybody left, right, and center, is to save his political career because the people are naturally going to coalesce around their government when they feel they are being threatened by an external force. They are going to forget whatever issues they're having internally and stand in solidarity with their government. What were you expecting to have? You're expecting that Iranians would, would run away from their government while they are being killed by external forces. No, it's people are at the moment feeling very nationalistic. Yes, that's what happens. We just went through a war together that everyone feels was unjustified. It is unjustified. So the government has a degree of goodwill, said Ali 36. They put us in the firing line with their policies, but generally they handled the war well. Yes, they were able to protect the territorial integrity of Iran, and that's what government is for, right? So I don't know what the Israelis were expecting to happen with this sort of attack. But it's what happened next that has many Iranians concerned. There are growing fears of an imminent crackdown on reformists and calls for change as the regime moves to root out perceived collaborators with Israel. They should root out collaborators with Israel. By Wednesday, authorities had arrested 700 people accused of being mercenaries of Israel, state-affiliated Fars news agency reported. Neda, a 45-year-old Iranian, says she believes the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, an elite wing of the Iranian military that is sanctioned by the US, will likely get stronger, consolidating even more power. So, especially if a disorganized leadership creates a power vacuum. So this article is the title of the article and whatever it's saying is it's almost contradictory because you're saying this will lead to a consolidation of power by the regime, while at the same time claiming that the invisibility has been shattered. There was never an aura of invisibility around Iran. No one ever thought Iran was a power that could not be attacked. That was Israel. Khamenei is reportedly hiding in a bunker with little access to communication and has yet to be seen in public since Israel and Iran reached the ceasefire, which came into effect on Tuesday. Of course, he's going to be protected for his safety. The US has said they were going to assassinate him. Israel said they were going to assassinate him. So it does track logically that he'd be more careful. There were reports that Benjamin Netanyahu fled to Greece while his country was being pounded by Iran. The leader of Iran, the supreme leader of Iran, did not run from his country like Netanyahu did. So who is the coward here? The government was strong in the show of force against Israel, and it will, at least for some time, play well, Neda told CNN. There's no telling if the gains we made in bringing reform over the past few years will remain. What was it all for? We've always known change must come from the inside, and that was happening. Now, where do we find ourselves? And this goes back to how US and Western and Israeli interventionism just creates more problem for the Middle East. Iran was on a path, trying to reform itself. Then you attack it. And now what's going to happen? Many of those reforms are going to be rolled back. And most of the most of the militancy, the hardline things that you see happening in the Middle East today are a reaction. They're a reaction to Western imperialism, to US interventionism. People say that Islam is terrible and so on and so forth. Yeah, there are obviously terrible aspects to it. However, Islam would have reformed itself in much the same way that Christianity had reformed itself. If post World War One, World War Two, US interventionism had not created the seed for such militancy to grow. Because when you oppress people, then they're going to look for ways to fight back. And religion is a big tool. They're going to use religion as a tool to fight back, as a rallying call. That's what's happening. And see what Israel and the US has done right now. It's going to have repercussions for the development of democracy in Iran because, of course, the regime is going to be much more hardline. It's going to be much more autocratic going forward because it doesn't want to take any chances. So, is this a good thing? No, you can't claim to be for a people and you're taking actions that is sending them back. All the Iranians who spoke to CNN, spoke with CNN, do so under the condition of anonymity, out of fear for their safety. So, yada 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 yada. The point, you know, as I've stated, is while this seems as if it applies more to Iran, it certainly doesn't apply to Iran. It's something that applies to Israel. Israel was pounded by Iran. This wasn't Hamas. This wasn't Hezbollah. This wasn't the Houthis. They took on an enemy who could fight back. And many Israelis saw firsthand what the Palestinians have been going through for months now and even for years before now. They saw it. They couldn't take it. Many of them were already complaining. Many of them fled. Many of them were fleeing. So they couldn't take what they were dishing out. What this has shown is that I think Israel will be much more careful when dealing with a country like Iran going forward. Israel wouldn't just wake up out of the blue and attack Iran because they know Iran has the ability to fight back. Iran has the ability to strike back and strike hard. So, mind you, this was the best that the West had to offer. They gave Israel what they've not even given to Ukraine. So, if this is the performance against Iran that has been sanctioned for decades, then who really is invincible here? Whose invincibility has been shattered here? I think it's that of Israel that has been shattered, that of the West that has been shattered. The world is the world will eventually become it is going to be a much more multipolar world. They're going to be much more the time for Western and US hegemony is literally over. It is over. It's just a matter of time. It's over. And we would move to a multipolar world where there is more equity, there's more justice, where the rights of underprivileged nations are much more respected rather than being imposed upon. So that's the video for today. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.